We left off last time at the moment the Arbab, the boss, threw Hakim and me into the bed of the pickup truck. He slammed the gas, flooring it with a reckless indifference. Surrounding us in the back were aluminum utensils, heaps of sacks, and piles of livestock feed. We tried to find some semblance of comfort, white-knuckled as we gripped the metal side rails. The truck devoured the road ahead. Despite looking like a discarded heap of junk, it roared with a deafening mechanical scream. We didn't realize its true speed until we passed the airport and hit the highway. Hundreds of cars overtook us effortlessly. The only thing our tin can could outpace was the thick black smoke belching from its exhaust.
This was my first journey into the Gulf, and it galled me to make it in the back of a truck like a head of cattle. Yet, simultaneously, I found a strange solace in watching the glowing skyscrapers line the road. I lost track of how long we traveled under that open sky, and I wondered if Hakim was even aware of the passing time. Slowly, the city lights began to bleed out of the horizon. The long road was bidding the city farewell. Traffic thinned, and the only light left was the rhythmic flicker of roadside poles. Eventually, we turned onto a side path, illuminated only by the faint dying glow of the street lamps.
I turned to see Hakim fast asleep. The exhaustion of the long journey had finally claimed him, so I let him rest. This side road eventually gave way to a dirt track, a pitch-black path where not even a flicker of light remained. The truck lurched between dunes of sand, leaving a cloud of dust in our wake. Not a morsel of food had touched my stomach, save for a few sips of water on the plain hours ago. I felt that gnawing hunger that hits you after a day of back-breaking labor. Hakim had told me at the airport that he felt he was starving to death. I wanted to scream at the boss to stop this heap of metal and let us buy something to eat or drink, but the voice stayed lodged in my throat. I was afraid of provoking him, and besides, there wasn't a single shop in sight.
An hour must have passed on that dirt track. My back began to ache from the violent jolting of the truck, and dust coated our faces so thickly that every breath felt like a struggle. What kind of wretched journey is this, O Lord? In that moment, fear began to circle my heart like a buzzing fly, and a suffocating doubt settled in my chest. This journey was not leading toward the Gulf life I had woven in my dreams. A thought began to take root. This Gulf looked nothing like the stories I had heard. It felt as though something grave was being hidden from us, a secret whose darkness was only just beginning to reveal itself. I wished Hakim were awake so we could share this terror. Half a fear is easier to carry, but he was buried in sleep, and even if he were awake, the fear might have broken him entirely.
I lost all sense of time. I thought of the moment I gave my watch to the Chachi, the fixer back in Mumbai. But would knowing the hour even matter now? I told myself I was in the boss's truck, that he would take care of us, and that life would eventually bloom. Why am I so unsettled? I stretched out in the back and rested my head on a bundle of feed. I looked up at the sky, and in my state of total exhaustion, the roar of the truck composed a mechanical symphony that lulled me into a stupor. It wasn't long before my eyes finally gave way. I didn't wake until the boss shook me. I opened my eyes to a darkness so thick it felt physical. It took a long time for my vision to adjust. Hakim was still dead to the world, and the boss was banging on the metal frame to wake us. Hakim bolted upright like a zombie jolted back to life. The boss signaled with his hand for us to get down. As I went to gather my bags,
He pointed a sharp finger at Hakeem. My friend was still in that daze between sleep and waking, completely lost. The boss began shouting, a torrent of words we couldn't understand. We were helpless. Why scream at us for no reason? Did he not know that hunger and thirst were tearing us apart? He had shown no hospitality, only noise.
But then I thought, perhaps the boss is also hungry, thirsty, and tired. Maybe he had waited at the airport for hours, driving this old truck back and forth without sleep. At least we had managed a nap on the plane and in the truck. Fine, I thought. You have the right to be angry. We were the ones sleeping when we arrived. But what kind of land was this? My eyes found no trees, no houses, no buildings, only endless mounds of sand. A scream began to build in my chest, rising to my throat. Oh God, where have we been discarded?
I watched from a distance as the boss stood before the gate of a wire-fenced pen. He pulled a key from his pocket, unlocked the gate, and pushed Hakeem inside. I waited for the sky to grant me a sliver of light to see what was happening, but everything beyond that fence remained a void. The only thing I could discern was a foul, pungent stench, the same one clinging to the boss. I realized the smell was coming from the pen where Hakeem had been taken, a mixture of animal dung and the dust of bleached bones. Was this the company we were meant to work for? Where were the factories, the machines, the pipes? There was nothing.
I sat in the back of the truck, waiting for the boss to return, my body paralyzed by a cold dread. Something was fundamentally wrong. It felt as though Hakeem had been imprisoned and my turn was next. Maybe he wanted to put me in another cell. I needed to run, to save myself. But where? The desert surrounded me. To run was to get lost and die. My thirst and hunger were now unbearable. I didn't have the strength to walk any distance. I stayed pinned to my spot, despite the overwhelming urge to flee. Eventually, the boss emerged from the pen and locked the gate. I rushed to him. "Where is Hakeem?" I asked. He ignored me, glaring with contempt as he hurried to the truck. He muttered something in Arabic that I couldn't grasp.
He got in, and I followed, climbing into the back. We drove for about a kilometer before he slammed the brakes again in the middle of the desert. I grabbed my bag and followed him toward a tent. Another man emerged, another boss. His stench was even worse than the first. They spoke briefly, then the first boss got back in his truck and drove off, leaving me with this stranger. Outside the tent was a long wire fence, another pen. It carried the same rot I had smelled where Hakeem was left. I could see movement inside, though I couldn't tell what it was. My new boss went back into the tent, pointing a finger toward the fence. Two bosses had now abandoned me, without a word of greeting or kindness, left in the dark before a lonely tent.
I walked toward the fence, my blood boiling. I saw shadows jumping here and there. Then a faint sound reached my ears, the sound of sheep. As I peered inside, I saw goats, hundreds of them, huge herds. I felt as if the sky were collapsing onto my head as the reality of my job finally became clear. I walked along the fence until I saw a bed in front of the pen. A man was crouched upon the bed, his head bowed. I froze as if I had seen a ghost. I approached trembling. His hair was matted and wild, like a hermit living in the woods. His beard reached down to his stomach. His clothes were filthy, his body ravaged by neglect. And that smell, it would repel anyone who dared come near. He saw me approaching but didn't care. Is this a human or a statue? A corpse? Then suddenly he burst into a loud, jarring laugh. I didn't understand that laugh then,
and I don't understand it now.
He said something to me in Hindi, but I understood nothing. I had never learned the language, yet I could feel the layers in his voice: pity, frustration, anger, and hatred. Today I realize he felt sorry for me because he knew exactly where my luck had dropped me and what awaited me. Compassion needs no language. Then this eccentric man stretched out on the bed and was immediately lost to his snoring. The shape of the work they brought me for was becoming clear. If I stayed here, I would either become like him or lose my mind. I had to run now. But in which direction? I had no answer. When I remembered the distance we had driven from the city, the thought felt like chains binding me to this spot.
A cold wind began to blow, and the exhaustion of the journey finally broke me. As for the hunger and thirst, silence was their only remedy. Back home, I was used to an early dinner and being in bed by 9. Now, I stood with numb legs, with nowhere to sit, let alone sleep. The pain in my legs forced me to set my bag down by the old man's bed and sit on it, indifferent to the filth. I spotted a large reservoir near the pen. I went to it and found 3 pipes protruding from it. I opened one and bliss, cold water flowed. I drank until I was drenched. I probably drank enough to last 2 days, as if I feared they would ban water starting tomorrow. Oh, the relief. I have no words to describe it.
I rested by the reservoir for a while before moving back to the man's bed. Exhaustion took over. I stretched out on the ground, using my bag as a pillow. The pain in my back made me laugh, a bitter laugh at the dreams I had woven. A car with AC, a room with AC, a soft bed, a television to entertain the eyes. What was left but to laugh at my own plight? The gap between the dream and the reality was a canyon. My first night in the Gulf, the bar of my dreams plummeted to the dirt. I woke in the morning to the sounds of goats. Sunlight draped the earth, though the sun hadn't yet risen. My bones were shattered from sleeping on the hard ground. I remembered waking in the night to pull a sheet from my bag to cover myself. Now that sheet was caked in sand. The old man was gone. For a moment, I wondered if I had imagined him in the dark.
I sat on the bed and looked around. The sheep and goats were more numerous than I had imagined. The pen was vast, divided into many sections, each holding hundreds of animals. Beyond was a never-ending desert that seemed to meet the sky. There were no trees as far as the eye could see. There was a large dune on one side. The other sides were just small dunes, twice or thrice the height of a man, scarring the flat desert landscape. Then the old man emerged from the pen, dispelling my doubt. In the daylight, I could see him clearly. What can I tell you? Layers of filth had fused to his skin. His hair and beard were beyond description. It looked as though 5 years had passed since his last bath. His fingernails were long, blackened with dirt, and curled in a way that turned the stomach. His clothes hadn't seen soap in a century. He came toward me carrying a large bowl of milk. He poured some into a cup and said something in Hindi. The milk was steaming as if freshly boiled. Starving as I was, I drained the cup in one go. Then he grabbed me by the ear and began grumbling as if cursing me. All his attempts at communication failed against the language barrier. Frustrated, he handed me the large bowl of milk and signaled toward the tent, telling me to take it to the boss. I entered the tent and found the boss stretched out on a bed. He was as unkempt as the old man, radiating a foul odor, wrapped in tattered rags. There was no sign of hygiene here either. He sat up, yawning, took the bowl and gulped down the entire contents, nearly 5 liters of milk in one sitting. He handed the bowl back and asked me something. I stood there, blank. He tried signs and gestures, but my brain was like stone. Frustrated, he stomped his foot on the ground. I broke down. I couldn't stop the tears. Tears of rage and hunger that had been building for 2 days. I told him, I can't do this. I have to leave. I didn't come here for this work. I knew he wouldn't understand a word. I just wanted him to look at me with an ounce of mercy. It was useless. He chased me out and shoved me toward the old man's bed. I sat there crying. The old man was busy with his work and didn't look at me. My heart and eyes were heavy with grief. The old man kept moving in and out of the pen, talking to me. From his tone, I think he was trying to explain the work or perhaps offer some comfort. He released the sheep and they ran past me into the desert. He followed them, leaving me alone. A large pickup arrived and the first boss, the one who brought me here, stepped out. He was in a better truck today. I noticed the tin can from yesterday was parked in a corner. I felt a strange relief seeing him. He didn't look as angry as yesterday, but he didn't look at me either. It was as if I were invisible.
He went into the tent, brought out some things, and I followed him like a dog wagging its tail. The two bosses embraced and greeted each other for 5 minutes. Then they started talking and looking at me. I knew I was the subject. Finally, the boss who stayed the night packed some things into the truck and left. I stood outside the tent, weeping. The boss came over, put a hand on my shoulder, and spoke. His words slowed my tears, but they didn't heal the wound. He went into the tent, pulled some bread from a sack, and gave it to me. But I hadn't even brushed my teeth, relieved myself, or showered. Back home, I wouldn't even drink a cup of coffee without a dip in the river, even in the dead of winter. This was the first day my habits were dismantled. I had drunk milk without brushing my teeth.
The hunger of the last 2 days had rewired my system. I sat outside the tent and stuffed my mouth with that dry bread. I had nothing to dip it in, but I didn't care. It was fresh and warm. I ate 4 loaves to fill my hollow stomach. When I finished, the boss gave me a jug of water. He offered another loaf, but I signaled I was full. I felt better. I was glad he had looked after me. Soon, the old man returned with the sheep. He herded them into the pen and sat before the tent. The boss gave him about 6 loaves of bread. He ate them all after dipping them in water, drank a jug of water, and left without a word. I watched his face as he ate. I saw a life where pain and sorrow had dried up after a long stay in this place. He went back to work without a single minute of rest.
Even as things went from bad to worse, I wanted to obey the boss as a way of thanking him for the bread. He said something in Arabic, pointing to the old man. I only caught the word Mazra, farm. I thought it meant water, so I grabbed a bucket and followed the old man. I filled the bucket from the reservoir and took it to the pen, pouring it into the large trough for the animals. The pen was divided into about 25 smaller sections, each holding 50 to 100 goats and sheep. Each had a trough for water and a place for grain and hay. Once the first trough was full, the old man released the sheep from the second section and pointed to the trough there. I realized my job was to keep the water flowing. I filled the troughs for the third and fourth sections. It wasn't easy. My back began to ache from carrying the heavy buckets back and forth, and the scorching sun only added to my thirst. The boss came and gave me a long staff. I held it with both hands, as if I were being crowned in a ceremony of shepherds. The old man came back, released another flock, and I followed him to learn how to herd.
As we moved forward, the boss clapped his hands. I went back and he handed me binoculars. I didn't know if he wanted me to find a stray sheep or what. He encouraged me to look through them. It was my first time using binoculars, and I was fascinated. I could see things clearly, kilometers away, even the patterns and spots on the sheepskin. I gave him back and he returned to the tent. Then he lifted his pillow and pulled out a rifle. He went outside, aimed at the sky, and fired. A bird fell to the ground, dead. I stood there, shocked. The boss looked at me, a faint smile on his lips. He pointed toward the herd and said, "Go." I went, certain now that my life was bound to these sheep and goats by ropes I could never untie. I shed my thoughts of escape like a snake sheds its skin. I entered a state of mental chaos. The old man had moved ahead with his flock, and I contemplated the desert. It looked different than I had imagined. The ground was hard, rocky. There wasn't a hint of green. It was barren and dead. Why are we here to graze, I wondered. There was nothing to eat.
I hurried to catch up with the old man. I found him sitting on a rock while the sheep circled. I sat on a rock too. There was nothing to do. I wanted to ask him 1,000 questions, but the language wasn't there. We only had signs, but he sat there, ignoring my existence. His eyes didn't look at the earth or the sky. They were vacant. Eventually, he stood up and began gathering the flock. This was no easy task. With 50 to 100 sheep, one runs right, one runs left. It's a constant battle to keep them together. After a great effort, he got them back to the pen. I just watched, a novice. He said something in Hindi. I figured he wanted me to drive them into the pen, so I did. Once they were in, we brought them grain and hay.
We repeated this for another section, herding them out, then bringing them back. I started to learn the rhythm. The purpose of these grazing walks wasn't food, but just to keep them moving so they wouldn't die of boredom in the pens. When we finished with all the pens and the animals were fed and watered, I felt the urge to relieve myself. The last time I seen a toilet was before I boarded the plane. Yesterday was fine because my stomach was empty, but today the bread was pushing its way out. Where was I supposed to go? In my home country, I didn't need four walls. I would hide in the grass or by the river and feel perfectly comfortable. I'd finish and then dip into the river to clean myself. Here in the desert, everything was exposed, and a man needs a bit of modesty. I tried to hold it, but every second pressed harder on my intestines. I walked behind the pen, hiding behind the goats so neither the old man nor the boss could see me. I finished with my eyes closed. The relief. No comfort in the world compared to that moment.
Like a cat, I covered the evidence with sand and stones and stood up. The problem now was hygiene. The reservoir was full of water. I would take the bucket, fill it, and hide behind the hay pile. I did just that, snuck away with a bucket of water. But before a single drop touched my skin, a sharp lash struck my back. My body crumpled from the sudden blow. I turned quickly to find the boss standing over me, his eyes burning red. I didn't understand. What did I do wrong now? Did I fail at work? Did I touch something forbidden? He snatched the bucket from my hand and began cursing me. He lashed me with his belt, and the more I tried to protect myself, the harder he struck and shouted. He didn't stop until I was sprawled on the ground, broken.
I understood through the insults and the beating that this water was for the livestock. You don't wash your filth with this water. I was never to use water for something as trivial as personal hygiene again. If I did, he would end me. That was my first lesson. Cleaning yourself after relieving yourself is a crime here. I got up from the ground, hating myself.
I had never been in such a position. I was a son of the river. Without water, I felt unclean. Hygiene was a principle of my life, but my world was being dismantled, and this ban on washing was the heaviest burden of all. I went to the bed and sat on the ground beside it. The old man sat on the mattress eating bread. He offered me 3 loaves. I set them aside without touching them. I couldn't imagine eating while feeling this dirty. From there, I looked into the distance. A caravan of camels appeared, at least 50 of them, moving like a train. It was my first time seeing a camel. I watched them, realizing their features mirrored the harshness of the desert. The caravan passed and entered their own pen. The responsibility for watering and feeding them fell to me. I approached the pen, terrified, not knowing if they were dangerous. If they were, how would they strike? A kick? A bite? A trample? I had no idea, but I had to go in. If I retreated, the boss would be there. Better the camels, brothers, than that tyrant. I took the risk and entered. I fed and watered them, expecting a kick or a bite every time I ducked between their legs. In the end, they didn't touch me. When I finished, I felt as if my back had been split in 2. I gave the old man a pleading look for help, but every time he moved, the boss blocked him. I realized this task was my punishment for stealing water to clean myself. I returned exhausted and sat on the ground by the bed. I panted until I calmed down, and then the hunger hit. I had the bread the old man gave me, and I didn't think twice. I knew I was dirty, unwashed, and filthy, but I stuffed those loaves into my mouth one by one after dipping them in water, washing them down with 2 jugs of water. When I finished, the boss called me to the tent. He lectured me while I stood with my head bowed, pretending to listen and understand. I realized the magnitude of my crime from the sheer length of his rant. When it was time for rest, I looked for shade. There was none. The sun was everywhere, its heat scorching, except for the boss's tent, which he kept like a sultan's palace. No one was allowed inside, and I wasn't brave enough to sneak in. The old man slept, indifferent to the sun. He stretched out on the bed, covering his face with a rag. The sun couldn't penetrate the layers of dirt on his skin. I sat on the ground beside him, a folded towel on my head. As I looked around, I spotted a sliver of shade under the bed. God, 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 the greatest discovery in the world. I slid under the bed, happy, and lay on the warm sand. I found a comfort there I had never known. I had just drifted into a light sleep when the boss called us. Like we did in the morning, we took the sheep and goats out to graze, flock after flock. When we finished, we gave them water, hay, and grain. Then the old man brought a bucket and began milking some goats while I watched. He was fast and expert. He filled the bucket and we carried it together. I thought they sold this milk, but the boss came out and drank his fill, and the old man poured 2 cups for himself. He told me to drink, but the smell was too strong. I couldn't bring myself to try it.
The sun hid, the shade spread, and the night laid out its darkness. The night boss arrived, emptied some things from the truck, and the day boss loaded it and left. The night boss brought us only bread, no broth, no stew, nothing. The menu of my future life was set. Early morning, warm milk straight from the udder. Breakfast, bread and water. Lunch, bread and water. Late afternoon, milk. Dinner, bread and water. When night fell, the old man stretched out on the bed. I laid my sheet on the ground. I wanted to ask him so many questions, but within 5 minutes, I heard his snoring. I used my bag as a pillow and thought of my family. My mother, my wife, and my child, or the one still in her womb. They must be worried because I hadn't called since I arrived. My eyes filled with tears,
and a heavy gloom settled over me. How can I tell them I arrived safely and that I am comfortable here?
I thought of Hakim. God knows what he is doing now. He is likely working in that pen where we left him, in the same state I am in. I wondered how he would endure this misery, young as he was. He didn't come from a poor family. His father had worked in Dubai for years. This visa to Saudi Arabia just came up. His father had planned to take him to Dubai. His father told him, "You have a visa for Saudi. It's better for you than wasting your youth in Kerala. Learn the language there, and in 2 years or less, I'll bring you to Dubai." How would he handle this wretched life? He isn't like me. I used to labor pulling sand from the river. He used to spend his nights hanging out with the boys in the neighborhood. Destiny had its way. May God give us the strength to survive this.
Sleep was elusive that night. My eyes didn't close until late. Perhaps my body wasn't used to being discarded like this. The next day brought another desert dawn. I woke with bones aching from yesterday's labor. Even when I hauled sand from the river all day back home, I never felt this tired. Plus, there was no shower, and that thought sickened me. I spent the day under the scorching sun, and when I lay down, I was swimming in my own sweat. I walked among the sheep until I was covered in their urine and dung. My armpits and thighs were sticky with sweat, and my robe was a rag. As for my shoes, if I took them off, the smell would reach you no matter how far away you were.
Before I could even stand, the old man put a bucket in my hand and pointed to the goats. I was supposed to milk one. I had no idea how to do it. I was a klutz. I entered the pen, approached a goat, sat behind her, and put the bucket under her udder. I gave it one squeeze, nothing. She kicked me and the bucket, sent me sprawling to the ground, and ran off, agitating the entire flock. Chaos broke out. As I lay on the ground, a goat kicked me in the back, leaving me writhing. I managed to get up and crouched behind another standing goat. As I reached for the udder, she leaped away. The third was the same. Lord, how am I supposed to milk a goat that won't stay still? I stood up and tried to corner them, but each one sent me to the next.
After half an hour, the old man and the boss came to see how many liters I had collected. They found me hopping like a grasshopper after the goats, with not a single drop in the bucket. The boss went back to his tent after a barrage of insults. The old man took the bucket and showed me how it was done. Never approach a goat from the back. Come from the front. Don't start milking right away. Touch her like you're stroking a small child. Touch her face, her ears, pat her shoulder and back gently. Then sit beside her and stroke her belly a few times. Only then move to the udder and touch it. If she moves, she's just ticklish, like a human. Wait for her to calm down, then squeeze the in a way that doesn't hurt. Never milk with one hand and hold the bucket in the other. Put the bucket on the ground, squeeze with one hand, and stroke her with the other. Even the wildest goat was calmed by this old man. Once he had milked a few, he gave me the bucket, and I imitated him. I wasn't perfect, but I tried. When the first drop of milk hit the bucket, I was overjoyed, as if I had finished an internship and was finally ready for a real job. I milked half a bucket and left the pen, drenched in sweat as if I had done a full day's hard labor. Another day passed with nothing new. In those first days, the old man taught me how to herd, how to control the flock from the side, not the front, how to use the staff to guide the strays. He showed me the exact amount of grain, feed, and hay for each pen. Today, the heat feels a degree worse than yesterday. My throat dries after just a few steps. Every time I drink that warm water from the reservoir, my throat feels like it's on fire. I have a terrible cramp in my stomach from the water,
and I've had diarrhea several times since breakfast. Honestly, I've lost the modesty I had yesterday. I just go wherever I am when the urge hits. When I finish, I use a stone instead of water so I don't anger the boss.
Afternoon, the heat intensified, and I felt my body sticking to itself. Exhaustion reached a breaking point, especially with the stomach issues. I complained to the boss and the old man, but the work didn't slow down. The boss takes nothing into account. The work must be done on time. By mid-afternoon, I was as drenched as if I had been dipped in a vat of soup. My unwashed state since I arrived is beyond words. I'll stop this part here. Next week we'll continue with my life in this hell, alone after the old man left. That's all for now, brothers. Take care.